Good morning. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well. Good morning.
Good morning.
Awesome, awesome. I see folks are starting to trickle in, which is great. We're gonna give it a few minutes before so we can get more attendees. Awesome. So Audrey, you went on vacation.
Yes, got to hang out with family. It was wonderful.
Nice, nice. Where'd you go exactly?
I went to sunny Florida.
I went to Florida this time last year. I went for the first time and I loved it. I went to Disney World.
Nice. Did you do all the rides?
Ugh, I couldn't do like any of the rides because I was pregnant.
Oh,
But it was a lot of walking and it was such a great experience for my daughter and my husband. They got on the rides and we could only do two parks, but I really enjoyed like the weather. It was great.
yes. I miss the weather. Now that I'm in Texas, I miss sunny Florida, but then it has a hurricane, and I'm like, oh, safer in Texas.
Yes.
Balances out.
Wonderful. Okay, I see more people are joining. Welcome, welcome. And just to let you all know, this meeting is being recorded. And I know there's a mix of small businesses and nonprofits that are joining us today. And I kindly ask if you want to, please share your information in the chat. Um, as will I. Let's see. Hmm. So as people are joining, um, everyone, I know there's attendees listening, and can you let us know if we can hear you, if you can hear us okay? We just want to make sure. Chat is disabled. Got it. Thank you. Let me go ahead and enable the chat. There we go. All right. Please let me know if the chat is now enabled. I'll have to remember to do that start of the session next time. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Um, okay. So right now we're waiting for more attendees, but we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'll start with self-introduction. My name's Elizabeth Cotton. I'm the executive director of Black Tech Link. We are a nonprofit that serves San Diego County, and some of the work we do focuses on STEM and business education. And I'm happy to be a part of this program. Natasha, do you want to introduce yourself?
Everybody, I'm Natasha Machette. I'm the CEO of the Prep Institute, and we are working with the County of San Diego to bring these free and important business growth training opportunities to the entire County of San Diego. So welcome everybody, and thank you for coming with us today.
Wonderful. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Um, Natasha, do you want to share a little bit more? I know there's new attendees that were not able to make it for the first workshop, which was a couple weeks ago, and that is okay. We do have the recording for that, and these are, open workshops where you can come and join. There's no prerequisite to like join a workshop. And so we really appreciate you all being here. And if you guys want the link for previous workshop, we'll share it. But Natasha, do you want to share a little bit about Project Most?
So thank you. Project Most is a contract with the County of San Diego with one very specific purpose: to help small nonprofits and small businesses grow. And it's for the BIPOC community, minority-led nonprofits, and minority-owned small businesses. So it has a couple of components. This is a major component where we're offering free workshops tailored to the tools that you need to grow your business. We are also offering 2 separate incubators: Impact by Design for small business growth and Impact by Design for nonprofit growth. In those incubators, we're working hand in hand, one-on-one with organizations to actually develop their business model for growth and action plan for growth. And then we work with them to implement their action plan. So thank you, Elizabeth. That's the general gist of Project Most.
Thank you. Okay. And with Project Most, there's a bunch of partners, as Natasha's mentioned. This program is put on by the County of San Diego Health and Human Service Agency, as well as Live Well San Diego. Black Tech Link, we are a partner in this program. We're excited to help facilitate these workshops. Every couple of weeks, we have these amazing dynamic speakers that will be sharing their expertise in small business and nonprofit development. This week, we're excited to have Audrey Bradley, who will be continuing her conversation about accounting systems online and how it can help grow your business. We also have some other partners such as Rise San Diego, who's supporting with marketing and outreach. So kudos to them. And of course, the head honcho of this program is the Prep Institute, who's leading and administering this program. Let's see. So today is, like I mentioned, it's financial management part 2, bookkeeping for small businesses and nonprofits. And Audrey, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, and my name is Audrey Bradley. I run the A. Bradley Bookkeeping and offer bookkeeping services to small business owners and nonprofits such as those that are joining us today. And my goal in working with small businesses is to provide clarity and informed decision-making through tailored financials. So I work with clients across the US. They're all different industries, some of the same industries, but their need is kind of the same. They just need to understand their business financials and how they can improve and grow and create a sustainable business or organization.
Thank you. So, Audrey, I will let you take it from here.
Awesome, thank you so much. So I'm going to start screen sharing and you should be able to see my QuickBooks. So please let me know in the chat if you do not see my QuickBooks. But I should be showing QuickBooks on the reports. I wanted to start off here, which is showing the reports for an actual nonprofit. So I know we have both for-profit and nonprofit businesses today. Since a lot of what I'm going to be discussing today evolves around the reports, I wanted to start off showing what the nonprofit statements will actually look like, and then I'll switch it over to for-profit businesses. So you might notice a slight difference in the actual reports in their names. So if you're a regular business, a for-profit business, you're going to have a profit and loss or an income statement, and then a balance sheet is like the 2 most popular common reports that you're running. But for nonprofits, because the name kind of indicates that you're not for profit, you don't really generate a profit or loss. What your statement is called is a statement of activity. So if I open statement of activity by class, for example, it's going to look exactly the same as a profit and loss for a business. It's going to describe your revenue. In case of a nonprofit, if you have restricted or unrestricted revenue, it'll indicate that. But it'll also indicate your expenses and indicate it here as expenditures. So the names are slightly different in the report itself, but the actual source and the point of the report is the same as for-profit business. It's just named different because you are a nonprofit. So that's your statement of activity. And then the other report, also known as the balance sheet, is the statement of financial position. So the names kind of change, and that's one of the indications that you are a nonprofit versus a for-profit business. Again, the actual report doesn't change. You're still going to show your assets and your liabilities, and then your equity portion. And then one other distinction between a for-profit business and a nonprofit. So a shareholder contribution, you won't find that on the reports of a nonprofit, because even if as the executive director, you were the one that opened the nonprofit, you aren't opening it to create equity for yourself as the executive director. You're opening it to serve your mission, to serve your purpose. So on a nonprofit, if I was to log in for the first time as their bookkeeper and see in the equity portion that they had a shareholder contribution, I would just kind of sit down and make sure that the executive director understood that that actually needs to go away. So that's the only difference. Otherwise, again, the reports are pretty much exactly the same. Balance sheet and profit and loss, except the names are different. Okay, give me just a second. I want to switch this back to the for-profit. And we went through this in the first part, but it's under settings. We'll just let that refresh and reset. Perfect. And now it's back to what most people are probably used to, the profit and loss and the balance sheet. So I just wanted to start off really quickly showing you the differences between the two. Again, the reports are going to look pretty much the same, but the names are different. And so now I'm going to jump into an actual vendor setup. So one of the main reasons that bookkeepers are needed, or a lot of times when people reach out, is around January, because there's always a need to do your 1099s. And so I'm going to walk through and actually give you an example of how you would do that for an actual vendor. So if you have a vendor already created, such as AT&T, Basecamp, Dropbox, or if you need to create a brand new vendor, there's the option right there. But you'll go into a vendor and you'll actually create or edit them. So click on John Smith, for example. You'll go into edit. And what you're doing for the vendor is you want to add his tax information. So if you paid a vendor more than $600 for services in, let's say, 2023, because that was last year, you're going to want to request a W-9 from that vendor. And what that W-9 form has is his tax information. So based on that tax information, you're going to include his street address, his city, his state, his zip code. I'm just going to make one up for purposes of this call, or not call, but for this meeting. And then you're going to add his tax ID number. And again, this all comes from a W-9 form. So you'll go ahead and save. And then once you have that vendor set up to send a 1099, as you'll see below in the detail, it's going to show you how much you've paid him. So again, we're looking at 2023. So you'll look and see, okay, maybe we paid him more than $600. Let's run the report in QuickBooks and check and make sure. So in QuickBooks, there's this feature, Prepare 1099s. It's right at the top. And if you weren't sure how I got here, it's on the menu, expenses, then you go to vendors. So you'll click on Prepare 1099s. And QuickBooks will verify your legal company name and your tax ID. So if you have a business, and make sure you have that tax ID number ready and available. I just put in a fake address for the sample today. And then QuickBooks is going to ask you, okay, which accounts should we check for who you paid more than $600 to? Accounts that you would not want to select are, for example, bank fees. If you pay Bank of America a insufficient funds fees of more than 600, which hopefully, is not going to happen this year or last year. But if that was the case, you don't want to send them a 1099. That was just a penalty. That's not really included in the 1099. But if anyone offered you a service, such as rent, advertising, cost of labor, contractors, legal and professional, those are the type of things that you would select accounts, and you would choose those accounts for QuickBooks to search and pull the data from. And then the next criteria is a 1099. So there are two different 1099s. Let me stop sharing the two. I meant to share the forms. Okay, so this form, if I'll open, is the 1099 NEC. And then you have another form called a 1099 miscellaneous. And they're both 1099s, and they both do the exact same thing. They both report to the IRS how much you paid the individual that you would list on them. So a lot of times when I'm running a 1099, I'll request a 1099 for their landlord, whoever they're paying rent to. And a lot of times I get back, oh, he's not a vendor that I paid. I don't need that information. But as you can see on the form, box number 1 actually shows rent. So any rent that you pay, if it's over $600, you will need to report that to the IRS. So there's two different forms. The IRS just decided to make it a bit more complicated a few years ago, and they split from one form into two. So as you can see, the rent goes to that 1099 miscellaneous, and then all these other, again, services go to that 1099 NEC form. So once you tell QuickBooks which form to use, you would just click on next. And I dropped a few in here just for example purposes. So Jimmy John's, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's a restaurant. You wouldn't send a 1099 to an actual restaurant. But again, this is just for example, you paid Jimmy John's $1,700 in 2023, and then you paid John Smith $750. Again, both of those are more than 600. So you would, yes, go ahead and send those 1099s to the IRS. So click on next. And then QuickBooks is going to tell you, okay, you have 2 NEC forms that are prepared and ready to send. You can preview that before you hit next. And then the next step is to actually file and you make the payment. So I'm not going to do this step today, but that's how you would run the actual 1099 process in QuickBooks. And so that's the vendor setup. That's making sure that you comply with the 1099 reporting. Before, I forgot to mention at the start, but kind of before I go into the next section, I want to check the chat and see if you have any questions. So if you have any questions about what I just did, please drop them in the chat.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can an I-9 form be used instead of a 1099 or a
An
W-9?
So I-9 is for employees. That actually requires like a passport or a driver's license. So I would not recommend using an I-9. It's possible you can, but basically a W-9 is your, let's call it a receipt for the IRS. So maybe Jimmy John gave us the wrong information on his W-9, and the IRS comes back to you as the business owner and says, hey, you got this wrong. You got his name wrong. His name is James John or whatever. You're going to go back to the W-9 that he gave you and say, well, this is what he gave me. I didn't mean to report incorrectly. I did the best I could, but he gave me the wrong information. And so that kind of redirects the IRS to go back to Jimmy John and say, hey, you need to fill out these forms properly so that we can track you down and make sure that you're paying your taxes on time. But the W-9 is kind of your proof, your documentation that I requested it. I was trying to comply with the law, and this is the steps I took. A lot of times I'll have my clients say, hey, I know him, he's a personal friend, he didn't really do this for the money. I'm just not going to report that on the W-9, and that is 100% their choice as a business owner. But it's up to you. If the IRS comes back to that client and says, hey, we noticed you paid this guy more than 600 and then you didn't report him, then that just opens you up for fines. So just for compliance purposes, I always say request a W-9. The I-9 would have the same information because it's going to ask for their social security number. But because it's for an individual and not a business, maybe Jimmy John, you got his social, but maybe he was needing to report that on his, I don't know, corporation form. And you know, an actual S Corp would have a different file differently. So I don't know how that affects his taxes. So you can, but I would not recommend that you use an I-9.
You.
Any other questions? Did that make sense, or were you just like, oh no, just gonna put my head down and ask somebody else to do it, which is, you can absolutely do that as well. Okay, I'm going to move on. As I move on, if anything pops up in the chat, please just call out if I miss it. So the next thing that we're going to cover is, oh, it looks like there's an actual quick survey. Elizabeth, will that be put in the chat, or do I need to put it in the chat?
Oh, for financial reporting?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me go ahead. Okay. So yeah, I definitely want, I wanted to do like a quick survey with everyone to see like why they want to utilize like financial reports and how it could benefit their small business and nonprofit. So we're going to take a quick like 2-minute survey really quick. I will put this information in the chat. Give me one moment. I'm going to put the link in the chat. Okay. Did everyone receive the link okay? Put yes or no. Perfect. Thank you, Shelley. So just a quick question. Just wanted to inquire with the audience and see where everyone's at with when in regards to financial reporting. Let me go ahead and share my screen. This is an active poll.
Elizabeth, Shelley is saying that the link isn't opening for her.
No? Okay. Give me one moment.
Yes, I think, Davina, it's one question.
Yeah, it's only one question. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So I got 3 responses. Did anyone else want to share? I did put the link in the chat. And you can also go and scan this QR code right here. And so I wanted to ask a question, why is financial reporting specifically for your nonprofit or business important? In the next segment, Audrey is going to share a little bit about some of the features of QuickBooks Online reporting. And we just wanted to see like how potentially she can tailor the conversation to the attendees. So please take a moment to share a little information about why specifically you need financial reports for your small business or nonprofit. And I did put the link in the chat. So I'll give it about 1 more minute. And then I'll go ahead and share some of the results. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share. And so here's some of the responses. Why is financial reporting for your nonprofit or business important? To know the true costs and make informed decisions. I want to be able to comply when formally starting my small business. I want to be knowledgeable in this before starting it, to know where you stand financially, sharing quarterly financial information with board members for CPA at tax time. Those are all great reasons why financial reporting is extremely important. As a small business myself, like I utilize financial reporting for all of those things. And so hopefully, Audrey, that can kind of help tailor the conversation as you go over financial reporting. And I also wanted to kind of share my screen one more time. Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
And so why is financial reporting important? Definitely to make decisions, performance evaluation, accountability. I know a couple people mentioned like being able to share information with CPA board members and compliance for tax reasons, investor confidence, like your board members you mentioned, and risk management. And so these are some of the reports that QuickBooks offers. Profit and loss statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement, age receivables report, sorry, let's just say age payables report, sales report, expense report, and budget versus actual, your actual report. And so, Audrey, I will hand it back over to you to share some of those reports.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Elizabeth. Let me go back and share screen. Okay, so now I am on the reports feature in QuickBooks. Again, if you don't see my screen, please let me know how I got there. Again, this left in the dark column is the guidance navigational column for QuickBooks. So if you scroll down to reports and then click on reports as it pops out, it's going to take you to this screen here. Your favorites are either selected by you, or QuickBooks will put about 2 or 3 favorite reports that pretty much everyone uses saved in there. But I just want to quickly scroll down so you can actually see where in QuickBooks you can find those reports that Elizabeth mentioned. So balance sheet, again, it's in the favorites at the top, but if it's not, you can always go here. And then if it's unchecked, it won't be in your favorites, but if you check it, so in this case, it starts green, it will show it in your favorites so you don't have to scroll down. And then another one is your budget versus actuals. So if you are using a budget, which is not in all of the QuickBooks subscriptions, it's only in the QuickBooks Plus or QuickBooks Advanced that you have the option to use a budget. But if you are using that and you want to view that report on a common basis, go ahead and click it to save it to your favorites. Next one is profit and loss. And I have favorite profit and loss by class saved as a favorite, and the profit and loss just as a regular report saved to your favorites. So the business overview is where you're going to see most of the reports that you want to use. But another one that, especially if you are invoicing or as a nonprofit, if you have pledges out there that people have pledged to donate to you and you want to see what's out there that maybe you haven't actually received, again, figuring out what you truly have in pocket, not just checking the bank account, but seeing what's out there, what else you are anticipating to receive. Your AR aging, this is what it looks like. It'll tell you, okay, City of San Diego is current. Their invoice is not due yet. But also, oh, maybe, and again, this is not accurate information. I just put City of San Diego because that's who is helping us fund this. So I'm sure they're up to date on all their accounts receivable. But, if you have any clients that are 90 days or over, those are clients that you might want to communicate with a bit more to make sure that they know and are aware that they owe you money, and just get an idea of when they're going to make that payment to you. So again, I'm sure Meals on Wheels pays all their invoices and they're up to date. These are just examples that I use. And that's your AR aging summary. That's money that people owe you as the business. And then let's scroll down again, business overview, who owes you. We're going to see who you owe. So in the accounts payable aging summary, this is showing you any vendors that you owe money to. So in this case, again, just for example, Jimmy John's, you haven't paid them their $50,000 bill that they sent you. And apparently they're being super nice about it. It's been over 3 months and they haven't knocked down your door. They're just maybe sending you reminders about this late fee, right? But it lets you know, okay, so when I received the money in from San Diego and Meals on Wheels, I still have to pay Jimmy John's $50,000. So if you're trying to figure out, can I afford to hire, or can I afford to pay my sales tax, or can I afford, or what money do you have? You always want to check your AR for your who owes you money, your customers that owe you money, and your AP, who do you owe your vendors? And that's all going to factor into the decision of how much money can I afford to spend this month, this year, how much do I need to make, and things like that. And then, of course, always a favorite, there's the profit and loss and the balance sheet, and then AR agents, and then the cash flow report. Oh, it's also under your overview. So the statement of cash flows simply shows you how your money is coming in and how it's going out. So it tracks the operating activities, your financing activities, whether you as the owner, again, not nonprofits, but for-profit businesses, whether you have had to personally contribute and make sure the business is staying afloat. It tracks all the money that comes in and comes out of the organization. And then I believe someone also mentioned sending reports to their CPA. So if you scroll towards the bottom, for my accountant, So most accountants or CPA, whoever prepares your taxes, they're going to request, these are the most frequently requested reports. So if you want to get a jump start, get a head start and get a jump on, okay, I'm going to send all this to them on January 1st so I get all my taxes done and I'm up to date and on time. Just look at this report here for my accountant. Of course, you have your balance sheet, you have your trial balance, and then you have your, I know profit and loss is on here somewhere. Keep scrolling a bit. There it is, and you have your profit and loss. So as I mentioned, balance sheet and profit and loss is pretty standard. Any business is going to need that. Again, if you're a nonprofit, the names are slightly different, but you still need that to show whether it's an investor, your board, your CPA, that's going to show the health and the financial status of your business. So now I kind of want to do a deeper dive into profit and loss. So I was showing this in the last session as well. So if you are tracking individual, let's say you're a nonprofit and you have different programs, maybe you have a Meals on Wheels targeting a specific community, or maybe you're selling products for a specific reason. Maybe you're a for-profit business and you have a different location. Maybe you have location A and location B. QuickBooks offers classes where you're able to assign the income and assign the expenses by class so that you're able to actually track and see how profitable that specific class is. And if you're a nonprofit, you're able to track and see exactly how much income you have left related to a specific grant. So in this example, Live Oak Meals on Wheels would be a grant that you requested that's restricted to only being used towards the Live Oak Meals on Wheels. So if you are to go back and request additional funding for that Live Oak Meals on Wheels community, and that one of the things that the organization might want to see is how you spent the previous grant. And so you're able to run this and show them exactly. And this is, I'm sorry, I just realized it's only showing people. I have a few years of information in here. There we go. It's a bit more built out now. Okay, so if you go back to the organization, you're able to show them exactly, we received $15,000, and then this is where those funds actually went. And in the case of if you're requesting more money, you can actually show them, we actually spent more money than you actually requested last time. So this year we're going up in our request for donations. And that's, again, just something for restricted, something only nonprofits really work on. But even if you're not a nonprofit, if you're a construction, or I worked with a interior designer that tracked her specific projects to make sure that each project was actually producing income and being profitable. You can set up a class for that actual project. You can name them whatever you want, whatever is associated with that project. And another area I wanted to, oh, here it is the budget versus actual. So a lot of times, whatever kind of business you're in, you have an idea in mind of how much you're going to spend, whether that's monthly or yearly. And so there's actually a feature in QuickBooks that allows you to input that budgetary number, and then you're able to compare. So we customize this a bit. Right now it's showing it month by month, which it was running off the page. So let's do it by a quarter. And it's still running off the page a bit. Okay, hopefully that doesn't make it too small for you to read, but if you're able to see, okay, this is Q1, January through March of 2023, and let's say you're running those numbers for your board, you're able to actually see, okay, how are we doing? This is the Q1 just finished. I think we're in the second month of Q2. So you're able to see, okay, how are we doing? And we're actually doing better. In this case, we're earning more than we budgeted for counseling. So that's awesome. Let's keep going in that direction. Or you can see, okay, so is there one where we did poorly? Okay, no, I put all these numbers. I'm a super positive person, so I put all these numbers where you're actually doing better. Oh, here's one. So in July and September of 2023, let's say we're in Q3 and we're looking at the numbers, and Q1, Q2 was great. I don't know what went wrong, but July through September, we actually did worse than our budget. So we only brought in 7,000 compared to the 12,000 that we expected. Now, if we look at Q1 and Q2, because we did so well, we're still going to, right now in July through September, we're still going to hit our yearly goal. But for Q3, whatever the reason, that's something that you would want to look at and see how you can fix. Maybe that covered summer when everybody took their kids on vacation and forgot to come in for their counseling sessions or whatever the case. But it gives you an idea, a comparison to analyze your information and see exactly Q1, Q2 did great. Next year for Q3, I need to plan better, or I need to increase my marketing so that my sales actually meet the budget. And there's a lot of different features that you can do with the budget. That's just one example. And I know I only mentioned income. You can also, you can budget for your expenses as well. So if you look at, let's say 2022 and say, okay, overall, I spent $1,000 on advertising, then you can increase it by a slight bit. You can't see it, but the yearly is 1,065 for advertising. So let's say, okay, 1 or 2% increase for 2023, and then you enter that number and you track your advertising. And if you go up or if you go down, it helps just track your numbers so that you know exactly what you aim to spend. And then if you go over, if you go over, then you know you have a problem. If you go under, that's awesome. That's money that you can reallocate to a different expense or just keep in your pocket. Another one I really like to run for my for my clients is profit and loss as a percent of total income. And these report periods are customizable. I know I manually change it, but you can do it for this quarter, this year, yesterday, last week. In this case, I went with last year. So let's say you're sitting down with your CPA, with your board at the end of the year, and you want to see, okay, what were our numbers? Did we make a overall loss or did we make an overall profit? And again, even if you're nonprofit, you are a nonprofit, but in order to continue with your mission, you do need to generate donations and other revenue generating activity so that you are able to fund your organization. So you still want to sit down at the end of the year and see, hey, okay, where could we maybe cut our expenses? What's the highest expense? Maybe we can play around, either negotiate or find a different location or do something different to decrease so that next year we earn more income. So you'll have your total income here, and then it's going to list out by percentage of income. So like, okay, cool, advertising was only 5%. Let's scroll down and, oh, wait, what was that number I just saw? Rent was 12%. Now, in this case, we still have a net operating income, but there is always room for improvement. So if you see that rent is at 11%, maybe you go back to your landlord and say, hey, what can we do to reduce the rent? Or is there a smaller space? Or do we need this whole space? Or are we fully utilizing the space we have? Because maybe you need a warehouse full because you had all these activities, right? You have counseling, you have pottery going on, you have donations coming in. Maybe you need a large space. It might be accurate, but just looking at the percentage, you can always look around and see if there's a better space for your organization to go to. And you can also use that as a negotiation tactic, like, hey, Mr. Landlord, I know this is what you said the rent was, but we can go over here for the exact same space, and he's only going to cost us half. So if you go down, maybe we stay here, or else, you know, just being a wise business person, we're going to have to take our business elsewhere. So it doesn't mean you have to move, but it always helps to know your numbers and then just shop around. So that's the report I like to send my clients just so they have an idea of this is your percent of total income. Okay, let me pause here. Are there any questions? Next, we're going into balance sheet. Are there any questions related to the profit and loss or about what I just showed you?
Audrey, there are no questions in the chat box.
Okay. I was just pausing in case anyone wants to start typing, but if not, and I know there's going to be a Q&A after I finish presenting as well. So I'll move into the balance sheet. So profit and loss, everyone always wants to know how much money came in, how much money went out, and what was left over. But the balance sheet is also very helpful to your organization. I'm just going to go through it. So you start off with your assets, which is obviously bank accounts, anything that your customers owe you, which is accounts receivable, and then your fixed assets. So fixed assets could be machinery, it could be land, it could be a building. A fixed asset is, I believe, anything more than, if you pay more than 2,500 to, like maybe it's a super advanced computer. I don't know if there's anyone out there that costs more than 2,500, but maybe you need this super duper computer for your organization. So you spend $10,000 on it. So there's a tax strategy related to depreciation that you're able to sit down and go over with your CPA on how to best get the tax advantages of that piece of machinery or land or building that you have. And depreciation is here, but it is, because it is a tax strategy, I usually leave it for your CPA to actually cover and how best to handle, because there's a few different methods for calculating that. And then once you go through calculating all your assets, which you'll add them up and say, hey, cool, I have $320,000 in assets, then you have to go into your liabilities. So how much do I owe individuals? How much is coming out of my assets? And at the moment, you have 50,000 in your accounts payable, meaning that you owe a vendor or multiple vendors $50,000. So if you were to take your financials to a bank or an investor and you say, hey, I want you to invest in me, or I want to take out a loan, the investor or the bank would sit down and say, okay, let's sit down, look at your financials and see who else you owe, who else is taking a chunk of your money, just to make sure that I will get my money back in a timely manner. Because they do, you know, one, they're investing because maybe they support the organization, support your cause, but also because eventually they want their money back and they want to make sure that you're able to pay them, that you are a solid business to invest in. So they're going to look at your liabilities. What else, who else do you owe? How much do you owe? How long have you owed them? If you, let's say, took out a loan of $100,000, and then you've had that on your books as a liability and haven't been making payments for the past 5 years, they're going to see that and they're going to be like, well, you saying it's going to be 5 years before I get my money back? You know, they're just going to have those kind of questions. So the balance sheet really comes into focus when you're going out and you're looking for investors or other funding opportunities. And then the equity, again, speaking from a for-profit business, is where you're going to track your retained earnings, how much you've invested as a shareholder, as the owner of the business, how much you've withdrawn from the business. Maybe you aren't on salary yet, maybe you're just taking personal withdrawals and they would show up as a shareholder distribution, or maybe you're constantly putting money into the business and you're wondering why. Then you would go to your profit and loss and see whether you're making an income or a loss. So this is what the equity tracks. And then retained earnings is just, so the profit and loss is for that time period. And you saw I ran it for 2023, and then I can run it for 2024, or I can go back and run it for 22 or 2020. But the retained earnings kind of tells you, okay, over the years, I've either made a net overall income and earned money, or I've overall made a net loss. That's looking at multiple years. So that's what the retained earnings is. It's retain the money you've retained from year over year. So maybe 2022 was a down year, but 2023 was an up year. So overall, it nets out to a positive. And that's also something that the banks and the investors want to see. Like, hey, maybe, or let's use 2020, for example, right? That was a terrible year. Like, don't look at the books for 2020. That year was not normal, right? Probably a lot of businesses reported losses. But if they were able to show that in 2018 and 2019, they earned overall income and they weren't at a loss, and 2020 was just a terrible year, then that still gains confidence from the investor and from the bank or whoever they're looking to generate and loan funds from. And that's the profit and, oh, sorry, that's the balance sheet, right? Profit and loss. Okay. So again, just pausing. Next section I want to cover is payroll and then bank reconciliation and projects, and then I'll be done to take any questions. But if you have any questions on this specific subject, balance sheet or profit and loss. Okay, I don't see any questions. I'm going to move on. I believe I was stopping at 12:30 and for the last 30 minutes taking questions, but let me know if that's wrong.
Let's
So-
go over like payroll and bank reconciliation,
Okay,
and then, but yeah, like our thing does end at 1 o'clock, and we want to be respectful of the attendees' time, but and we still want to offer an opportunity for them to chat with you directly.
awesome. Okay. So payroll, QuickBooks obviously as an accounting software offers their own payroll, but there are other payroll providers. Other names that you may have heard are ADP, Gusto, Paychex, Paycor, OnPay. Any payroll provider basically does what your tax preparer does, but for your employees. So each state will have its own actual payroll related rules and regulations, and then they might also have workers' comp or unemployment. So there's a lot of rules related to payroll. You want to make sure that your employees, when you hire them, are paid correctly. So always, I just recommend my clients will just price shop. Just see who has the best features for you. If you're going with QuickBooks Payroll, this is what it looks like. They have an employee and then a contractor section. And then if you are required to do workers' comp, they will price those out for you. And then if you're using, let's say, ADP or Gusto, most of those integrate with QuickBooks so that you're able to run the payroll separately, but then actually get the journal entries and everything to calculate your taxes and then the actual wages paid and make sure that matches the information and the withdrawals that are taken out of your bank account. So aside from that, I don't really do anything with payroll as far as the calculation. Again, that's very detailed calculations, very similar to what your tax preparer does, is how I relay it to my clients. So as the bookkeeper, I can absolutely recommend payroll, but I don't actually calculate any of that myself because I don't want anyone to go to jail and I want to make sure everyone gets paid on time. So any questions on payroll, feel free to drop it in the chat. But I just wanted to touch on it briefly, just so you are aware that is something offered through QuickBooks Online, or you can go outside externally and actually run payroll as well. And it integrates. Most everything integrates with QuickBooks Online. I'm sure there's a software out there that doesn't, but QuickBooks has been very good about making sure all the integrations integrate with their system.
Wonderful. Yeah, I use ADP and I integrate it with my QuickBooks Online account.
Yeah.
A question in the chat. Is this what ADP, or this is what QuickBooks Payroll looks like for nonprofits and businesses, or just nonprofits?
For both nonprofits or businesses, the payroll is actually a separate subscription. I wonder if it'll give us the pricing. I didn't mean to mess it up. But it looks the same. So payroll is, I don't know if you've ever run payroll, but it's its own separate piece. So you go into payroll, you set it up, and QuickBooks or any software is super helpful in setting up payroll. Now, there's some of the pricing. So if you're curious, that's what it looks like. But no, it is its own piece, and it stays the same whether you're using nonprofit or for-profit, because payroll is a whole entity unto itself.
Awesome, thank you.
No problem. Thank you for the question. Let me see. So if you're going into reconcile, it's on, again, on the menu, navigational menu. You'll go here under transactions, and then you'll go over here on reconcile. So whenever you're first logging in, it's always going to ask you this. It's just a bit of information if you've never done a reconciliation before. But once you get to this screen, this is where you actually handle the reconciliation. So most commonly, I'm coming in to reconcile a bank account, a credit card account, or if you have an investment account such as Vanguard is the only one that comes to mind. So you would go in and make sure that you select the correct account. I have logged in and I was looking at the bank statement on one hand and the account wasn't matching on the other hand. And then I realized I wasn't looking at the right account. So there are different accounts. It comes from your chart of accounts. So just be sure and select the right one. And then you would enter. So if you have a bank statement in front of you, and I wasn't able to pull up anyone's bank statement because it has a lot of personal information, obviously, but that bank statement is going to show you a beginning balance and the ending balance, and then that statement will have the end date. So if you've ever looked at a credit card statement, usually the end date is not the end of the month. Like 2 days ago was April 30th, the end of the month. But if you look at a credit card statement, for whatever reason, they like to end on the 10th or on the 2nd or on the 15th or whatever date. So it's very important when you're looking at the statement to be aware of that end date. But if you were to go in and say, okay, my ending balance as of April 30th was $100, you would put the ending balance, the ending date, and then start reconciliation. And so QuickBooks is going to open and show you all the unreconciled transactions. And QuickBooks does try to help, like it'll say, I think it's this one. And so you'll see these pre-checked off, but obviously in this case, it's not balanced. So this could come from a lot of different possibilities. Maybe the beginning balance was off. Maybe the beginning balance needed to be 200,000 and you need to start in January of 2024 because that's when you open the business. Or maybe the ending balance was wrong. I know a lot of typing, your fingers just get confused and mixed up and they put in something else and you're like, that's not what I typed. Maybe the payments are wrong. If you received a payment, let's say on the 30th, and maybe your bank account didn't recognize it, like it was in pending status until the 1st. So then that payment didn't actually show up on that statement. It doesn't count for that time period. And then you would just go in and say, okay, I didn't actually get this $1,500 on that statement. And you would unselect it. Or maybe the deposits were wrong. Maybe, and I had this a lot. It's one of the reasons I always recommend reconciling your accounts. So a client had received a $6,000 payment, but when I went to reconcile, the $6,000 was not in the bank. And what happened was she received the check, just hadn't made it to the bank to actually deposit the check. This was before the mobile deposits, and they made it super easy for you. So I just reached out and said, hey, the $6,000, where is it? Have you seen the check? And she was like, oh, I forgot. And it was in the shred pile. Like, you know, we used to hold on to the check for a certain time and then you would shred it so no one can take that confidential information off the check. So reached out to her, made sure she deposited the check before it got shredded and everything was kosher. But that's one of the reasons for my clients, I'm always reconciling to make sure that what is on the bank statement actually matches what's in QuickBooks. Let's say maybe this 25,000, right? So there's 3 of them. Maybe only one deposit of 2,500 was received and these other 2 are duplicates. you're gonna catch that in the reconciliation. Now, this one, I just made up a ton of data and I plugged it into QuickBooks, so there's absolutely possibly no way to reconcile this. Just made up numbers. But at the end, when everything reconciles, this is going to turn green. And then it's going to say, I think, complete or matched, or maybe it says reconcile. And then you're able to say, great, finish. In this case, if you are obviously wrong, you need to go back, or maybe you haven't found the error yet, you can always save for later, which maybe I worked on a statement with over 600 transactions. So maybe you were going line by line through all 600, trying to match them and select, like, this one's here, this one's not here, unselect, and things like that. And then you get halfway through and, you know, you get a phone call or you have to go into that meeting. Then you just stop, save for later, and you can come back to it. And that takes us to 12:30. Is there anything I missed, or I'm open for questions? Any questions that you have?
There's a question, is there a particular QuickBooks subscription you recommend for small businesses just starting?
So if you're just starting as a small business, I recommend the QuickBooks Simple Start. It has the essential reports. It has the balance sheet, it has the profit and loss, but you don't need, when you're just starting, you don't need to track a budget or to track a project or payroll or anything like that. You just need the basics, which is what QuickBooks starts off with at the Simple Start. I believe it's $30 a month. And then the next level up is QuickBooks Essentials, which has a few more reports. Like, you'll have the profit and loss, a percent of income that we looked at. You'll have that additional report in there. And then that's QuickBooks Essentials. So they build over time. If you're a construction company, at some point you will need either the plus or the advance, because you'll want to track by project, which is over here, and make sure that each project that you work on is profitable. But as you start, you're just probably going to be starting with a few small projects, and that's easy enough to track without that feature. So start small and then build as you grow. So QuickBooks Simple Start. Thank you so much for the question. Anyone else with a question?
Yeah, so right now, I want to say thank you, Audrey, for presenting. Like, you did an excellent job. I want to take this time to, I'm going to put a link in the chat. Everyone that's on, if you could please complete this survey, please let us know how we did, how Audrey did. We definitely will look at that feedback and tailor our next discussion as we look to have more of these programming in the future. Let me pull this up. Oh, where'd the chat go? Here it is. All right. And so right now, what we're going to do, as you guys are completing the chat, we'd like to take this time for any attendees that want to ask Audrey specific questions about QuickBooks, about their business. She can ask those questions directly. And so what we're going to do is we're going to bring everyone that is in the chat into the main to the main presentation, main webinar. And please, if you're not feel comfortable, like if you're, eating in your bathrobe, like I would say maybe you can turn your camera off. But this is the perfect time to ask Audrey directly. And she also has like a complimentary, like free consultation, 30-minute consultation if you want to connect with her further. But now is the time to like, please ask Audrey those questions. And so I'm going to bring everyone, let's see, how do I do this one?
Hey, Karen, it's good to see you. And Shelley, good to see you both. See
I
me?
think I invited everyone in. Awesome.
I'm doing something wrong.
Can everyone hear us okay?
So as Elizabeth said, if you could take a moment and take this survey, it's very important. The County of San Diego is interested in learning about the value of this training for you all. So if you could just take a moment and do that. And then if you have any questions about QuickBooks and maybe an issue in terms of your own accounting, Audrey is available if you want to ask some questions. And also too, for me, I'd like to learn about how you all are using QuickBooks. Are you tracking your financial affairs? Are you running into struggles with doing that? How are you doing with it, Karen? How are you tracking your financial affairs?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
What I am doing is I'm still a fiscally sponsored nonprofit. And so all of my donations, grant work and stuff like that is tracked by my fiscal sponsor.
Mhm.
And then I'm keeping in Excel right now, my own, any income that's coming in, such as service fees or things like that, and how that's all going out through my bank accounts and everything.
Oh, excellent. Makes
Right.
it easier too to have the fiscal sponsor do it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Do you find financial management challenging as a small business or small nonprofit? Sonia?
Yeah, hi. So we use QuickBooks to manage our nonprofit finances, and that includes like service payments and grants, mostly. And I find it incredibly challenging, not being from an accounting background. We actually utilized QuickBooks offers like a cleanup feature, which we use. They just like cleaned up our books in like one big effort because I was sort of losing my mind going up to tax season. And then they also offer like um a monthly paid thing for accounting, but it's quite expensive. So we did it just right after the cleanup for a couple months, and then I've been very motivated to just figure out how to do it a little bit better so we don't have to pay so much for it. But it was good to sort of just have someone doing it. So it was off my plate for a while. But I think the chart of accounts is a little bit overwhelming to me. Like sometimes I think, oh, I want to change a category or find a different way to track some of this so it's more intuitive to me. But then you like go to change something and it says scary messages like, are you sure you want to change this? It's gonna like alter all of these um, things you've already reconciled. So I don't know that I have a real specific question around chart of accounts, but if there are any resources that might be helpful for me to understand that a little bit better or make some changes and know that I'm not messing everything up if I make a change would be awesome for me. That's sort of a question that's been lingering.
Oh, yes, thank you. I know QuickBooks loves those scary messages, and I'm like, yes, I just reconciled. I just need to make a change. And then they ask you like 3 times, and then you're like, well, now I'm not sure. But yes, the chart of account, if you have an idea of, let's say it's software, and you have a more specific that's going to meet your need and make more sense to you, absolutely change that. The only thing I would say in regards to that is, so if you're using a tax preparer at the end of the year, a lot of times I've seen them come back with questions if it's too specific to your industry. Like if it makes sense to you, but it doesn't make sense to the tax preparer, then at the end of the year, you have to sit down and basically explain to the tax preparer what's going on. So whether that's, software dash, then you write whatever makes sense to you so that the tax preparer understands this is what it is. But then looking at it, you also know, and don't let the message freak you out. The only message that QuickBooks actually, it's nice to give a warning on is if you try and merge an account, like let's say you put software and then bank fees and you try and merge those two accounts, QuickBooks will warn you on that. And that's one that's very hard to separate once you do, but you can't break anything in QuickBooks. It's all fixable. Or at least I have yet to find anything that I broke and wasn't able to fix.
Well, that's reassuring. Thank you.
No problem.
Is anyone new to using QuickBooks? I know we have a startup organization. I think it's Davinia. Anyone else new to using QuickBooks? No? Shelley, how are you doing with it? Because I know you use QuickBooks Online. How's it going?
I knew that was coming. It is the bane of my existence.
No.
Just because as a solo founder, like, you're still figuring things out. You're trying to like figure it out, but you really don't have the time to figure it out because wearing 5,000 hats.
Right.
So like, I just want to know, how much do I need to pay someone else to do it? To get it cleaned up properly, because I'm kind of fudging my way through, but not confident, but they're accepting it. So it's like, but I know that in order to grow and sustain, I need a major cleanup like that QuickBooks cleanup thing, but I would rather have it be someone who could clean it up and then show me the right way to do it, because I'm kind of figuring it out as I go. So yeah, it's not my friend, but I can see where we could maybe, be on better terms in the future. But right now, we're not cool.
But on her behalf, she's doing an outstanding job of teaching herself and using it and printing reports. So I just had to say that. I'm applaud you, Shelley.
Thank you.
Doing a good job.
When Natasha says it's good, I'll be like, okay, cool. But I don't feel confident in it. And that's, also a holdback when you're trying to grow. Being able to be confident in your numbers and what you're saying is important. And so I'm definitely at that point and happy to be here and happy to meet a Black woman who's doing it. So we're going to talk.
Thank you, Shelley. Yes.
That's wonderful. I was going to make that recommendation that the two of you all get together, and talk it through. And then Shelley, let me know, what the cost is for that.
Okay, cool. I was like, because we broke. I start with, I lead with my broke foot.
We may have a little pot of money to help you out. So please talk. Anyone else? Does anybody understand the importance of this as a growth strategy, even as a startup? Benton, you said that you've been in business for 1 year. What kind of business do you have? Is he still with us? Okay, does anybody see this as a growth opportunity to strengthen your financial management? Because I can promise you, not only do banks need this information and need you to be able to talk through this information, but your funders do as well, right? That's why it's so important. It's not just accounting. It's a business growth strategy from year one in your business all the way through. Even for you, Karen, with fiscal sponsorship.
I know, I was just going to speak up that I'm really moving towards becoming my own standalone nonprofit, and I really need to be able to feel confident in the decisions I make. And I'm pretty confident, I think, the decisions I make. They just aren't necessarily financial decisions that I'm making right now. And so I that would definitely help me become better.
Yeah. And thank you, Sonia, for letting us know in the chat that a lot of grant applications are asking for this kind of reporting as well. It's a new world out there in small business and nonprofit development. So Benton, you're in a service business for maintenance and turnover of vacation rentals. Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. That's a nice business. Is that a profit-making business? Is that a profit or nonprofit? When you get a moment, if you could answer that in the chat. It's profit. Okay. Thank you, thank
That's
you.
one where you could track it by class. If you,
Mhm.
for example, own the vacation rentals, you can track and see how much it costs maintenance and turnover of vacation property 1 compared to vacation property 2. If they're in the same location or if they're, miles apart and you're using different service providers, you can compare and see who's doing the better service, who's the better cost. So that would be one where you could actually use it by class or use the projects one, Benton.
Excellent, excellent. How about you, David and Karen and Linda? What is your experience with your financial accounting and QuickBooks? Anyone?
Hi, this is David. Yeah, I've got a very limited, kind of in the startup mode, so I'm just still trying to, gather receipts and get it all on one piece of paper, let alone into a platform. So, I see myself getting towards the hiring a CPA or, maybe somebody to help get me organized or at least, put my receipts into stacks and columns. But yeah, kind of in the learning phase.
Sharing that. At part 1, there was actually a participant that said she has all her financial papers in a shoebox. I almost fell out of my chair, but David, don't do the shoebox. Okay, promise me, don't do that.
I think I got one of those fold away accordion type folder thing. I'm one step. I'm not too far, but I'm one
Okay,
step
so
above the shoebox.
you're another one. Reach out to Audrey. Let's take it out of the accordion and put it into a system right away. It'll make your life so much easier. Did you all see with all the reports that she was just bringing up, how it's just easy? Once you get everything in there, it's easy to do the report, and then you can start doing the analysis. So excellent. How about you, Linda? What is your experience? You're the treasurer?
I was asked to be the treasurer of our nonprofit. It's a diverse research now, and mainly because my husband is in finance. He's a CFO, so our president was like, he kind of knows what he's doing. Do you want to help out? I'm like, sure, I'll help. So the last session, I kind of came on late on this one, but the last one I did learn a lot about just even payroll and keeping things, legal IRS wise, because we do a lot of Venmo payments to, we have like a social media helper and another administrative assistant. So we want to make sure we're giving them their 1099 and just keeping that all on track.
Excellent, excellent. I love it. So anyone else, any comments, any questions? No? So Elizabeth, do you want to close? And before she does that, I just want to thank you all so much for taking the time to join us today. This is an important, very, very important subject for small business and nonprofit growth. We hope to continue this discussion as we enter into year 2 of our contract with the County of San Diego. So you're always welcome to send us an email to say, this is more that I want to learn. Let us know so we can factor that into the upcoming 2nd year training. Okay. Another thing, please, if you can, if you haven't had a chance yet, fill out the survey. And 2, I'll keep saying Audrey offers 30 minutes of free consultation.
Yes.
It's a valuable piece of your time to do that. All right. So again, thank you all. You've blessed us today and we appreciate it. So Elizabeth, would you like to close?
Yes. Everyone, thank you so much for sticking around and being a part of this virtual workshop session, Financial Management Part 2. Audrey, and just give Audrey a digital round of applause for making this amazing workshop series. The first part of our workshop series happened. I really appreciate you and definitely vouch as she is my bookkeeper. She actually reached out to me on LinkedIn during the pandemic when I first started my nonprofit and was like, do you need bookkeeping services? And I said, absolutely. And we've been rocking ever since. So I'm really glad that she can share her expertise to like my other businesses and nonprofits in San Diego. I'm going to share her information right here. Please feel free to reach out to Audrey directly. You can email her, shoot her a text message. And then I'll also send up a follow-up email with these two workshop sessions, financial management part 1 and part 2. And I'll also have a link where you can also schedule time to chat with Audrey. And so this does conclude the first module part of our workshop series, which focuses on financial growth. The next workshop series module focuses on customer growth. So we all need more customers, right? And so next, or not next week, but May 16th, we're going to have Alex Waters. He is the executive director of Jacobs Accelerator, and he's going to be talking about customer acquisition strategies. And following that, at the end of this month, we're going to have program coordinator from DGS, Department of General Services, to talk about government contracting, to see how you can utilize like the government as a client to help grow your business as well. And so I'm excited for you know, to hear stories. Please share your stories about how your business is growing, your nonprofit is growing. And if you have any questions about our program, please feel free to reach out. And thank you all for being in attendance. And so that does conclude it. And we look forward to seeing you next time.